mean, you're a bright, competent lady. Why do real estate? You could do almost anything.
Why not? I started entrepreneurship at 12 years old. So I've always been independent in business. And so majority of that is still sales. I got married and had children. I wanted to be flexible. And I said, what could I sell that's going to be the most return? And real estate is the one asset that almost everybody needs. They're paying a mortgage one way or the other, and it was a larger ticket item. Then my goal, though, in real estate was to be able to build my own asset. Many realtors don't own their own real estate portfolio. They don't own real estate, they sell. So my goal was that, okay, I needed to get a property every year for my birthday, actually. So that's how I did it. So instead of taking big fancy trips or buying designer clothes, I put a down payment on condos because that's what I could afford. So I built up my portfolio every year for many, many years like that until 2008. Readjusted my portfolio considerably. I was like about $8 million at that time and lost it all. It was pretty devastating at the time because, again, you work and you sacrifice for it, but I also served me well during the time that I had it. When that happened, my attitude was like, well, I'm not going to stay away from real estate. And some people said, why would you get into real estate? I said, no, it wasn't real estate that was wrong. It was the timing. And then maybe I could do things a little bit differently. Maybe I've learned from that. And so I started back onto it. And when I started back, I had no money and no credit.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter.
Hi, this is Christina Suter. we were having a chat and a conversation, and we're so sorry I interrupted her in the middle. Welcome to the show. And let's see, what show are we on? We're on Real Estate Breakthrough Show. There we go, with Desiree, with Homwork, and I'm excited to have her on the show. And if I wasn't excited, I wouldn't have her on the show. But we were just talking about, it's been so long since we've had a chance to catch up with each other that she was bringing me up to date on some of the things that she's been up to. And she's like, hey, wait a minute, can I hear more about what you're doing? And I'm like, well, sure, like, turn on the recorder. So like, we're going to talk about you, honey. You just got to deal with it. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
The reason why I said, hey, let's turn on the recorder is because the question we were sitting on top of was, what is the purpose of your brand Homwork? Because that, I think, is a purpose that is amazingly important for people to understand about both what is the company about and what you are about. So talk about the purpose of the brand Homwork.
The purpose of the brand Homwork came out of, one, my desire I became an empty nester and I didn't want to live in a home alone. And I said, but I want to be around other professionals and entrepreneurs. And so I said, maybe we can create a house where we can share with other people and we can live and work. So that's where the word Homwork came up. And Homwork said, I just want to live where I work where I live, anywhere in the world, because I had the freedom and flexibility to do so. So our intention, our mission is to be able to change the way business professionals and entrepreneurs live and work. And previously it was a lot of millennials and creatives, but since post-COVID, it's been huge to business professionals. I'm sure you and others are working like, the engineers or the accountants or the insurance people. Now people can take their laptop and work remotely anywhere. And that's amazing because that's a lifestyle that is quickly growing and changing. And, it's a beautiful lifestyle. You don't have to wait until you retire to travel now. Now you can travel and work at the same time.
You call it traveling and working at the same time, but there's so much more value to that. I mean, the concept is when you say travel and work at the same time, people can see the image in their mind of what it means to have that kind of freedom in their life, to be able to travel and work from where they're traveling. And that's a freedom that I think people have been hungry for, that Homwork stands as a brand for saying, yes, you can have this life, a life where you can live in Seattle for 2 years, live in San Diego for 2 years, live in Australia for 2 years, because you're working from where you are, or for 2 months.
Absolutely.
Right? And you're able to embrace this sense of, I'm in the rat race, I'm doing my work, but I'm not stuck. And that's really, I think, what we hate the most about the concept of the rat race isn't just, gee, I'm 9 to 5, I'm in the same job every day. That isn't necessarily all of what people hate about it. Isn't just that work. Some people love their time 9 to 5. They love being on a team. They love it, but they hate being stuck. They hate the traffic to work. They hate being stuck in work. They hate they have to wait till after traffic. They hate they can't pick up their kid during work hours. They hate that they have to be in a particular environment around some people who maybe are great positive influences and some people who maybe aren't great positive influences. And they're stuck in that office environment. Some people actually resent the feeling of the stuck. And that's the
Absolutely
what you're talking about.
Absolutely. You hit it on the head. It's like it's the freedom and the flexibility that people have right now. And I think before we weren't exposed to it. We just were programmed to go to the office and like you mentioned, get stuck in traffic and do whatever we needed to do to keep a job. But now people are opting out of that, and they're at all different ages, all different professions, and all different, in all different areas. And like you said, why, if you can work remotely, why work where you're living, and you can work, in the beaches of Cabo or Bali or whatever, and still get the same thing accomplished. And then it's also too, when you're working remotely, many times you're working by yourself, and loneliness, is not a healthy thing. So even if you're working in one of our properties, we have the privacy of a desk and everything in your room. So should you want a Zoom call or a private conversation, but you have co-working areas where you're surrounded with other people. You have common kitchen areas and dining areas, living room areas, and then work areas. So you have privacy when you need it, but company when you want it. It's much more economical because you just pay one flat price, which includes all your utilities and basic, the coffee, the tea, and the necessities. It offers this sense of more security, when you're traveling alone, especially in other different countries, because you have people that are there that can show you around or accommodate you or accompany you in different events in different places. It's also, it's a lot more. It's more the communication, the community. People like work, but they don't necessarily don't want to be without the community. You're able to connect with people for business purposes, for friendship purposes, people get partnership together. People decided to room together. So there's a lot of different community and connections and opportunities that rely on other people. So it's really just another way, but it's a way that, and again, previously the young people have been doing, but now, we are retiring next year. My husband's retiring, and that's what we're going to do. Our first stop is in Greece. He doesn't need to be in his office anymore. So we'll still be working, but I want to see Greece. I want to see Spain. I want to see places I haven't seen, and we will be as productive if not, because when you have to focus and you have to accomplish a goal. So it's truly a exploding lifestyle for all different ages, and we're able to accommodate or provide accommodations whatever level you're on. Like you said, short term or long term or midterm, and it's awesome.
It is awesome, and you guys have now Homwork as a brand. You guys have been developing your locations, but I think you guys have just joined forces with another company that actually expands significantly the amount of homes that you guys now have access to.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we were stretching along, acquiring properties at 12-bedroom, 12.5-bedroom properties on our own. But what we encountered was, how do we manage these properties, especially the way and the level that we wanted to be able to, the service that we want to be able to provide, because we have different managers, different locations. So we were fortunate enough to find a company called Outsite, outsite.co. And they are always been CoWorking CoLiving. So that's magical right there, because sometimes some managers didn't get it, the concept, and get the community part of it. So that's always what they've been doing since 2015. And they have over 50 locations in 17 different countries. And then they have members, over 5,000 members from 40 different countries. So any given time, you've got people from all over the world at your kitchen table. And again, it's connections, and some of them travel from location to location. It's just a beautiful thing. We've stayed at a couple of their properties, and it's amazing. So that is allowing us to scale. So all of a sudden, they've rebranded our properties, and our properties go in their portfolio. So you can go to Outsite and you'll be able to see our properties and their properties. Mm-hmm. And now we can just concentrate on the fundraising, syndicating, raising the funds, acquiring the properties, as well as being able to manage the assets. And the properties that we're acquiring are specifically from a poll that they took among their members. So they asked them, put that poll out, like, where do you want the locations to be in the US, Mexico, Canada, and Europe? And so we're working from that blueprint as to where the locations are going to be.
It's beautiful. And I love that you're expanding your acquisitions, because it's really like being able to acquire the properties and then having this even larger website that you guys now are part of means that part of the driving demand to your properties has been taken care of, right?
Yes.
Outside Co is being able to bring the demand to your properties. I think if I understand correctly, your passion has always been on the side of the acquiring. You want to create the lifestyle, you want to acquire the properties and create the lifestyle. And I guess what's important to differentiate is that Homwork, the way you guys created it, was specifically about creating a room and an environment that is attractive. And if I remember correctly, was it all females for a while, or is it still?
For a while, initially it was females, but then as soon as we opened the properties, the men came and they haven't left. So.
What's different, and what's important is that it's different from a pad split and it's different from an Airbnb. And
Absolutely.
Each one is meant to be a space for you to reside in. Right? Like it literally is the words that you say. Live where you work and work where you live. So you have a desk in your room, you have a bed in your room, you have the capacity to have your clothes with you. You create this room where it is your world, and you can literally have control over that space. And it's meant to be attractive, and it's meant to be calm, and it's meant to be serene. It's meant to be a place where you can feel at home. So it's not like it's the cheapest desk in the world. It's not like it's some roll away bed that has a cheap mattress on it. It's meant to be something that would be attractive and comfortable to live in.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
The short-term, mid-term, and even some longer-term levels. And it's the value that you bring, your value and your sense of design and your sense of cultivating community through the design of the house itself, that I think has been sort of the nuance or the uniqueness of Homwork.
Absolutely. It's we could say that it's Airbnb meets WeWork. So again, it's just a combination of,
Airbnb meets WeWork. And they have a big one. It's called Homwork.
Exactly.
The pad split guy. I'm just saying. The pad split guy was the first guy who came up with that. Just giving acknowledgement to him. But Airbnb meets WeWork, and it has a baby, and it's called Homwork.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. But it's important because, again, people working is part of most people's lives, in the majority of their lives. And so to being able to do it, like you mentioned, in a comfortable, safe environment where there's consistency as far as the Wi-Fi, as far as the amenities, it's really important. So you're not guessing. If you go into a hotel, yes, but you'll be alone, and you have to find your way down to a bar or to the business area. If you go say another Airbnb, again, you're alone, and you have to hope that all the different amenities are going to be available for you to work as a business person. So this takes out the guesswork and puts in all of the fun.
Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about you. So tell me a little bit about why you even moved in towards real estate as a choice in your world. I mean, you're a bright, competent lady. Why do real estate? You could do almost anything, right?
Why not? I started as
but I need a true story. I'm like, why not? Real estate's great. Why is it that it's great for you? Right?
I know. I'm just teasing you. I have to give you a hard time, Christina.
Absolutely. Any day of the week.
I started entrepreneurship at 12 years old. I've never had a W-2 or a job. So I've always been independent in business. And so majority of that is built to sales, and I was comfortable with sales. So when I got married and had children, I thought, okay, what could I wanted to be flexible. I wanted to be with my children. I didn't want to be on a job. And I said, what could I sell that's going to be the most return? I enjoy people. I enjoy, again, communicating with them. So I had no problem with that. And real estate is the one asset that almost everybody needs. They're paying a mortgage one way or the other, whether they're renting, they're paying someone's mortgage, or if they're paying their own mortgage, they're paying a mortgage. And it's something that everybody needs. And it was a larger ticket item. So if I'm going to sell something, I was going to be able to garner the most most benefit from it. And I was able to do it well with my kids' parents, and I was able to align it with my conversations in my day-to-day life. So I started in sales with Coldwell Banker, and then I started in 1989, a long time ago. And then I also...
That's not a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
I remember 1989. I remember 1999.
Yeah, we were both dancing around.
Tell me how old I am.
Okay. Yes, it was just... Yes, only yesterday.
Yes,
But yeah,
right,
that was the 8.
I apologize. I hijacked you.
No, that's cute. I know. But sometimes I say that in the room and some people are like, I wasn't even born then.
Right, exactly. I'm like, no, I graduated. I remember 1986. I was graduating high school. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So it's interesting. But at that time I was doing that. Then I went on to be a broker. Then my goal though in real estate was to be able to build my own assets and to build assets of my own. Because I heard that so many realtors don't own their own real estate portfolio. They don't own real estate. They sell. And I can see how that happens because you're living from escrow to escrow and you have no control and no consistency. But my goal was that, I needed to get a property every year for my birthday actually. And that's how I did it. So instead of taking big fancy trips or buying designer clothes like my friends were and so forth, I put a down payment on it was mostly condos then because that's what I could afford. And even if some of them had a little negative, but I figured again, that was the money that I would be going out to party with or socialize with. So if it was $200, $300, it was good. So I built up my portfolio every year for many, many years like that until 2008. Until 2008, 9, yes. 10, 11, 12, and then readjusted my portfolio considerably. I was like about $8 million at that time and lost it all, just through the leveraging, just everything. So it was pretty, it was pretty devastating at the time because again, you worked and you sacrificed for it, but I also served me well during the time that I had it. Again, was able to leverage it and refinance it and it afforded me a consistent lifestyle because I was able to depend on those rents and so forth, and it did. So when that happened, my attitude was like, well, I'm not going to stay away from real estate. And some people like, why would you get into real estate? I said, no, it wasn't real estate that was wrong. It was the timing. And then maybe I could do things a little bit differently. Maybe I've learned from that, be able to be a little tighter with my numbers or be a little more conservative with my, leveraging. And so I started back onto it. When I started back, I had no money and no credit. I mean, very, very little money and no credit. And because my credit had all these foreclosures on it and the bankruptcy. And I've had to I said, okay, what am I going to do? So I searched for a seller carry. And I need the least expensive and the best area seller carry. So I searched all over and it took me into Palm Desert. There's a little condo there that a gentleman owned free and clear. And I remember that, when I looked at many of them, but there was like really no. But finally was one that was really doable. And before I said, listen, let me tell you up front, this is the situation. I've been doing this is what my credit looks like. And there's no need to run it. I can tell you what's on there and this is what's happening. And he said, okay. And when he said, okay, it's like, yeah, sure. So he took my little money and I moved in. So I waited till after I moved in to ask him like, so really why did you give me this opportunity?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Because it was a pretty risk.
Right?
Yeah, it was a risk. It was like,
helped, but still, it was all right. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, still a risk, still a risk.
Yeah.
It's still a risk. And I never forget, he said, because you were upfront and honest, and I believe that if you did it once, you'll do it again. And, he too had experienced some losses in the market, properties that he did own free and clear. So everyone that was around that time, they understood that pain. And sure enough, I got it and I paid him off. And actually my son took it over and he paid him off. And he's just been a friend. He's still a friend today to us because that was huge getting started. So from that point, I was able to start back again. And, that's the good thing about real estate. It's something that is forgivable, both sides. Real estate will forgive you when you make your mistakes, but you have to forgive real estate when those market happens. You can't give up on it. You can't, walk away from it or abandon it. You got to just realize what the lessons were learned and then go back. And because there's so many asset classes, so many ways to do it, and you just it's forgivable.
That's just amazingly well said. I've never, out of all the interviews I've done, hundreds, I think like almost 200 in this podcast series. I did a previous podcast series. I did over 500 shows and I think in this one I'm like close to 200 shows. And I've never heard anybody say, you need to forgive real estate. That's brilliant, right? Everybody focuses on forgiving themselves. What did I do wrong? How did it go? And yet we know that real estate has cycles. And that type of cycle in real estate happens about once every 90 years. 90, 90, not
right.
90, right? And therefore we have to forgive real estate for what it is. It is the vehicle, it is exactly for what it is, the way that it is. And it has a whole series of its own dynamics, its own characteristics, its own strengths, its own weaknesses.
Yes.
That is brilliant. I'm going to steal that. Can I steal that?
Please, absolutely. I've never said it before. I don't know where it came from.
Well, it came from your own wisdom, clearly, right?
That's what I had to do. I had to forgive it, and I had to forgive it because then, for that time, but I had to really show the appreciation and gratitude for what it has given me before and after that. It's really true. And that's why, though, that's the difference, Christina, that when people take classes that you offer and go to your meetings that you offer, because the more knowledgeable you are, then the better you will be for it all around. I mean, you'll make less mistakes and have less hurdles and less disasters if you have the knowledge. Knowledge is power. And there are leaders like yourself that are seasoned and that are offering time and classes and education to those who want to do it. And if someone thinks they can do it themselves, and that's their biggest mistake. Because even the ones that do take the training, and that it happens. Yeah. So that's why I think people underestimate the value of the events that you do and sponsor in the classes, because no matter what there's always something one more person has done a different way that you can learn from.
Yes, you can. It is true. No matter how much you've done, no matter how many different ways you've approached it, even if you think 90% of what's available out there, which is almost impossible to 90% because it's so huge. I mean, all you got to do is say, 90% of public storage, or, 90% of industrial, 90% of residential. But do you know 90% of how to loan on residential? Do you know 90% of how to buy in multiple different states in residential? Do you know mixed use? Do you know development, ground up development? There's so many niches, even within just residential.
Exactly.
It's
impossible. It literally is. It's just almost. I can't imagine. It's impossible for everyone to know everything. And really and then also, even if you do it, it's great to hear it because everything's applicable at different times, right? Maybe what I did, things I was doing 20 years ago, I'm not doing now. But if I hear something like, I could apply that. I forgot about that because I could apply that with this vehicle or this asset class or this, opportunity. So it's just, education is huge. And the connections that people meet, they meet and talk with other operators and other people that are interested in it. Those are huge because just that camaraderie, because otherwise you're a lone ranger, out there, most of the time, even if you're involved in the office, you go to the office meetings, but after that, you're a lone ranger. So it's good to connect, stay connected, and to learn as much as you possibly can.
Just talking to a friend of mine, Stephen, last night, and he's been in real estate and he's seen several different cycles in real estate, even though he's probably, a couple years younger than I actually am. But he's, been up against it a couple of times, and yet I find it fascinating. He's like, people in real estate keep thinking about how they can do it. Like when we talk about team, it's not just like your real estate agent and your lawyer and all the people that can advise you in what you're doing. What about like a team, like acquisitions, project management, right? Fundraising, coordinator, whatever, like the team, the contractor, like you're in a team where there are 4 or 5 of you creating a team that is working as a pod, creating this business model. Now you're not making this business model, you're making this business model.
Exactly.
Right? And there's so many of us in real estate, and I'm guilty of this. There's so many of us in real estate where it's like, I'm the investor and I work with, but it's my investment. And I just loved how he was like, I'm like looking at him going, oh man, he paid me. He paid me. I think of my investment portfolio, my little portfolio over here. Right? And then I think of, and then I can think of my business models, which are maybe more team-oriented business models. And I want to create more team-oriented business models. And I'm like, oh man, he's right. We forgot the value of the team from the top, not just me, the investor, hiring my team. It just is brilliant. And I think it's one of the things that you've really discovered in joining Outside is that what is the value of a larger team? What's the value of building a brand as a larger brand? But also, like, to double back to like education, right? That's one of the things you were talking about is the value of education. And I know you also offer educational courses, right? I offer educational courses through ITI, right? ITI Education, but you also offer education courses in the area from what I understand is from syndication, right? So
yes,
tell us about, because the level of expertise you want to educate. So talk to me.
Absolutely, because it came out of a couple different things. We said, okay, we were looking again to expand, and we thought, well, we needed more people to do what I was doing, which is finding properties, to doing the numbers on the properties, and all the process of that. I figured if we had other people out there doing that, then we'd be able to again scale. That was one incentive. But then we found a lot of people were asking, how are you raising funds? How do you do funds? And we said, well, this is how we start doing it. And I thought more and more we were doing it. We said, well, let's teach people how to do that so that they can learn how to do it, at least how we do it, and become part of our team. And then that was another way of being able to expand. And what we found is that some people were just coming, not necessarily even to be a syndicator, but to learn how to invest in a syndication, because they were hesitant about investing in syndications because they didn't know the terminology, a lot of the details, and like why they were structured the way they were structured. So by us being able to pull back the curtain and show you what, as an investor, you should be looking for and what you should expect, and then as a syndicator, what you should be doing for your potential investors, it was huge for them. So there's small classes. We only do maybe 4 or 5 a year. It's 5 to 6 people. So they're small in our home, so we can actually really immerse ourselves with it. But we have constant weekly masterminds. So we're talking about the deal, helping people with their deals, helping them be on their GP, on their teams if they needed to, and just being able to support them along the way. Because it is the reason why I'm so excited about syndications in that way. It is the one vehicle that you can acquire an asset without any of your own money or credit. And the sky's the limit. So we teach them, say, for example, a lot of people don't have their exit plan, especially realtors now in the light of the recent NAR lawsuit and so forth. They don't know what's going to happen and what their security is. So they should be trying to get some properties. They should be getting some properties that's going to give them a passive income. And so if they say, well, I don't have the money or I don't have the credit because the income has been flexible, like a lot of realtors are, then they should put together a syndication, learn how to syndicate, and find an asset they feel is going to be, that know they're going to be income producing, and do their underwriting, and then have people invest in it. And if you need creditor, get a guarantor and be able to get the asset, and then let it go for its full circle, whether it's 3 to 5 years, and either sell it, which will give them some chunk money and some experience to do something, or they can refinance it and they would have the asset, and then they'd be able to build their portfolio from there. So a lot of people that are going to just like, I don't know how I'm going to do and how I'm going to exit this, instead of just walking away, that's an option for them.
Well, and I love that you cover everything. I mean, well, maybe not everything, but you cover everything they need to know from the beginning all the way up to raising capital. Then you cover the legal, you cover how they actually create a syndication, how they create it itself. You cover how they create the deck to be able to explain the syndication they're creating to their potential investors. And you talk about how to actually raise capital. So it's a little like, one can almost call it syndication 101, but when you described it to me, I was like, oh, that's exactly, people hear about syndications all the time, and yeah, there's a lot of complexities to starting a syndication, but just to have that simple, like this and this and this and this, and to bottom line it into something where they really can say, okay, these are implementable steps I can wrap my head around, and it really breaks it down into something where I'm capable of saying, yes, I can do this. It's not this pie in the sky concept anymore. It's this implementable step. And I love that you've taken the time to do that. Speaking of that, I'm also here from a little bird. Why don't you bottom line for us? I think you have started a fund. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
why don't you tell us about what you're doing inside of your fund?
Okay. Yeah. So we've done a couple of syndications for the properties, and that's how I really was able to go through the experience and learn it and work with the attorneys and accountants and the custodians around that. So, but as a result of our partnership with Outside, we created a $10 million fund. And so a syndication is basically one-on-one. One syndication, you raise funds for one property. But because we want to be able to get 4 or 5 different properties within a year's time, then we raised the fund, a $10 million fund. And with that fund, it's one asset class, which is the hospitality. Because some funds have, notes or Bitcoin or private money, whatever it is, that are just strictly hospitality. And we selected the areas that Outside's members have suggested they want to be. For example, Hawaii, Montreal, Canada, Miami, Seattle, Puerto Escondido, different parts of Mexico, and so forth. So we have 2 in escrow, Puerto Escondido. We use boutique hotels because it's SRO, single room occupancy. So there are boutique hotels, bed and breakfast inns, and things of that type that we don't have to worry about the short-term rental laws. And I have 2 there now. It's in escrow that will close probably next month. Then we have 1 in Montreal that we're negotiating with, 1 in Joshua Tree, beautiful Joshua Tree, California, that we're negotiating with. We're waiting for licenses and tests and things of that type. So we're doing a lot of due diligence on the properties, but we should have at least 4 or 5 of them that will be available and for someone to be able to invest. We're working with a 506B, so we have accredited, non-accredited investors. So if they want more information, they can contact us.
It's beautiful. And I love that you're actually moving into that because, again, I think I said earlier, like the secret sauce of your company is you and the way that you try to design it and try to make it so that it is a particular environment that people actually want to be in, right? Live where they work where they live, anywhere that they want to, right? Yes, I just love that tagline. I really do. I've always loved it. Since years ago when I first started talking, I'm like, that's just brilliant. Right? So that's fascinating that you're able to now place yourself in the part of where I feel like your secret sauce is. That's what I was trying to get.
Yes.
You're in the area of raising the capital. You're in the area of acquiring the properties. You'll be responsible for the design work on the properties so they're the right environment. And then because of your partnership with Outside.co.
Outside.
Outside. I couldn't say it correctly.
You got it.
I'm like, no, that's not right. Outside.co. Then you guys will be able to offer it on that platform and people can be able to find your particular. Are you branded as Homwork on that Outside.co website? Can they find your property versus other people's properties?
No, they can find our, we're in this and that transition is still new, but on Outsides, it'll be it will be outside property. If they go to our website, Homwork website, they'll be able to see the outside properties. Again, which is okay because they have the membership, they have the marketing, they have their social media, they have all of that. So we're going to dive deep into the real estate, and they just want to do that part of it. We just want the real estate. That's where the money is.
That's where the money is. It is where the money is because that's where the appreciation is. I was having a conversation last night with a gentleman who's like, I've got one house and I think I'd like to get another house, but I'm not sure how. And I'm like, well, let me ask you this. If you were to take the same amount of equity that you have in this one house and you put it in 2 houses, and now 2 houses are appreciating. California appreciated 8% June to June. You have 2 houses that are appreciating by 8% June to June, instead of 1 house. So if you have 400,000 appreciating at 8%, or do you want 800,000 appreciating at 8%? Which is better for the growth of your portfolio?
Do the math.
Same amount of equity, right? Maybe a higher payment, but if you get the rents covering the bulk of that payment, right? Then maybe, you said, maybe it's a little more money, a little less going out to movies. But now you're gaining that extra 8% on 400,000. It gets you there faster. Just the number of doors can be positive. Now let's not go cray-cray because you don't want to own those doors badly. You don't want to own them so they're badly over-leveraged, badly funded, not performing, not capable of supporting themselves in any fluctuations in the market. So let's not go cray-cray. But the number of doors themselves starts to become valuable when you're looking at appreciation being one of your tools. So I just
Exactly.
want to put that out there, right?
No, that's absolutely. I mean, they're definitely. I mean, that goes with that's how people should look at it. That's the same reason why, for us to do a 4-bedroom house was not profitable. Now we do minimum 12 bedrooms or 15 bedrooms. You have one roof,
Right.
one plumbing, one electrical, but you got different rooms. And so by being able to rent out each room, the numbers speak for themselves. And besides the fact that you're actually, accommodating more people in a beautiful way.
The house is more self-sustaining, and being able to then go, okay, I've got this one, now I can get a next one, now I can get a next one.
Exactly.
And it also allows the fund to be able to grow.
Yes.
Right? Because that's part of what we're talking about with the fund is more doors. It allows you to get more doors, allows you to get more roofs, allows you to get more appreciation, allows you to get more cash flow. And that's part of the value of having the same amount of equity, but being able to use that equity in a leveraged way so that you actually get more return in your case with more rooms, and more return for a property because you actually have each property appreciating. So that's part of what I'm just trying to talk about is the math inside of the fund itself.
Yes.
I love my math. So,
and you're good at it.
I try to be good at it. I do. I kind of geek out on it, truth be told. So, hey, I'm dyslexic. I didn't do well in the history and English, but I really did great in math. What's double?
That is such a skill set. That's such a skill set. My husband does most of our numbers, my math. He's the same.
So there you go.
People love it. People love it.
Yeah.
But even the math and conceptually, it makes so much sense. And there's so many different ways of approaching it that it works. But people realize, and I don't think there's a person that has extreme wealth that did not have real estate as part of their portfolio to contribute to it.
That's correct.
The long term.
I have forgotten the number, but there is more. First of all, 80% of the world's wealth is in real estate, because if you think about it, real estate effectively is land. And so if you look at it, most of the surface of this planet that is accessible is owned by somebody or some country. And so when you talk about it being a storehouse of wealth, it's like, just like by definition.
Undisputable.
Just saying, like, you drive by that piece of desert, and that piece of desert belongs to either a country, a county, or a person, right? So it is owned, and it is a storehouse of wealth, period, right?
Yeah.
So, all right.
No argument there.
Let's bottom line these next couple of questions. So right now, what would you say is happening in your industry? What is your industry facing? And what do we need to know about that? Give us some bottom lines on that.
Well, as far as the industry of the hospitality industry is facing a lot of opposition from the communities for short-term rentals. As far as short-term rentals. And so people are having to, people that invested initially just with that model are having to pivot to mid-term and long-term or sell their properties at all. So that's why us being really diligent about getting properties that are already licensed for single room occupancy, we can avoid that. But there's still ways of doing it, and doing the numbers you can do it. The industry of real estate for agents, and people in that end part of it is really unsettling. A lot of them are unsettling. Some of them are very confident, and they have a environment, or they have a community. They have their clients that they're very confident with, so they can just do and follow the new rules. But some of the other ones that don't have that kind of confidence, they don't have that kind of clientele that they can command those prices and command from agents, from buyers, and so forth. So they're feeling a lot of instability and concerned. As far as housing, again, get back to the basic real estate, land, as we were talking about, that will go. It will ebb and flow forever, never, never. And again, it's just being able to keep your eyes on it, find out where the assets are, where it's going, and being diligent with it. I think money, as far as syndications and money and raising funds, like what you do, it's there. It's there. It has always been there. And now it's just a matter of being able to find really unique, being diligent about finding really unique purposes for it and returns for it, like our returns. And people are still willing to invest, and the money is everywhere. They say money is everywhere, and it really is. So the people, it's everywhere. It needs housing. Housing is everywhere. Yes, there's supposed to be a shortage, but people can build, and there's tiny homes and all these other different models that people can do. Some countries are becoming more stringent than others. So that's why you can invest outside your own state or outside your own country. So just be flexible, just be open, flexible, and knowledgeable. and you can be successful and
Right.
patient.
Patient. I think that thank you so much for this amazing amount of knowledge and all that you have to share. So if people want to really be able to find your particular website because they really love your secret sauce in your company, or they just want to find you because they want to get on board and join your fund, how do people find you? How can they come play with you, right? In the game that you're playing, right? Because this is a newer cutting edge industry. Being able to do this sort of work where you play and play where you work, or work where you live and live where you play.
I hear play in there. I hear play.
Right? But this is definitely
I could change it. Play where you live where you play, anywhere in the world.
The whole point of work, I'm afraid, is somehow cornerstone to the concept of homework, HOMWORK, no E, right? Homework. Because I do think it is, again, talks to the lifestyle that you're creating for people. And this is cutting edge, and it is newer in the industry, and it is a next derivative, I think, of the Airbnb concept of truly being able to say, I'm not going to necessarily own my own home, or if I do, I'm going to rent it out, and I'm going to be traveling for work because I have all of these. I'm an engineer and I get hired by Duke Energy, or and then I'm going to go to another energy source, or Duke's going to send me to another site where I need to be able to work, and being able to embrace this moving lifestyle. That is cutting edge in our industry. So if people want to join that boat that you're creating and they want to join your fund, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find out more?
They can go to Homwork, HOMWORK.com, no E, and they can either opt in then, and they can find my information there, my phone number, 818-292-5559, the same one for like 30 years, or Desiree at Homwork, DESIREE at HOMWORK.com.
Yeah, and Desiree, many people probably know how to spell it because of my dyslexia. DESIREE.
Desire with the extra E.
Desire with an extra E. That's what I'm always looking at. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. That's right. There's two A's. So they can find you. You borrowed the E from Homework. That must be what it is. So it's Desire, and you move the E from Homework into the end of your name, and that's what happened. That must be what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, you just made it so complicated. Yeah. I took the E from Homework and put it on Desire. There we go.
So there you go.
I've never heard of it that way, but that's true.
I told you, I'm in play mode today. What can I tell you? All right, well, this
Fantastic.
is Suter at Real Estate Breakthrough Show. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you get lots of information on the cutting edge work that Desiree is doing with Homwork, and how this is truly going to be, I think, a part of the field that is going to take off. It's a natural derivative of the Airbnb trend. It is a new form of hospitality. Thank you, Desiree, for your knowledge and your depth of dedication to us.
Thank you. And thank everybody out there. Wishing you lots and lots and lots of best luck and love in your life.